right, now we're going to continue our discussion on this particular artwork. Jesus is entering into Jerusalem, and the paved road, the city gate with battlements, the wall embrasures, the slender towers rising up above, the building of white marble reproduce a remarkably realistic layout, both urbanistically and architecturally. So the small tree, withered and leafless, shows Christ's basically he's behind his halo. The little tree behind his halo. I'm sorry. It's a fig tree that Christ found with not having any fruit on it. So if you've studied anything in Christian culture, you'll realize that as a Christian, you're supposed to bear good fruit. Okay, so you're supposed to do good deeds, kind deeds. So if there's a tree with no fruit on it, then it's not bearing good fruit, and that's a bad thing. The panel by Duccio is a faithful reproduction of the description of Jerusalem. Infrared photography during restoration of this particular panel has revealed several changes of mind regarding the area around the tree and in the center of the road. So Duccio actually changed some things, and that's what artists do. So that shows that it's not a copy. It wasn't a copy of someone else's artwork. The artist made changes in the artwork. So the small tree, basically the tree being withered and leafless, that shows behind Christ's halo. That fig tree has a lot of significance to it. Now, this story of Christ entering into Jerusalem is told in the 4 different Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next artist. And it is Simone Martini. Now, Simone Martini, he was from Siena as well, so he would have known Duccio. He was a student of Duccio's, perhaps since they were obviously from the same city, but Martini was born in Siena. He didn't move there. He was born in Siena. Duccio had a number of different students that he was a master over, and Martini worked in other cities besides Siena. He also went on to work in Pisa, Assisi, Orvieto. He spent most of his life in Siena and the Tuscany region. He was first mentioned in 1315 with a Maesta that he made in Siena, and we know that he spent time in Naples around 1317. He also spent time in France, Avignon, and this was around 1335, so he got work from some French artists, okay? Probably some French royalty is more specific. I shouldn't have said he got work from French artists. He would have gotten work from French royalty, okay? They would have been his patron. So he came to Avignon because there was a court of the popes in the 14th century, and so those popes would have also wanted him to do work as well. Now, he painted frescoes for the popes together with Matteo Giovannetti, who was an artist of great refinement and had descriptive gifts. Now, a few of the frescoes that Martini made in France still exist. He returned to Siena shortly after a time, but he only remained for a visit. He died in France after he returned in 1340. He lived there for 4 more years and died in 1344. Now, there was an artist, it was a poet, whose name was Petrarca. Excuse me. And Simone Martini and Petrarca, they were friends, okay? Petrarca actually dedicated poems to Simone Martini. So it's really interesting when you research this artist and you see how he influenced other artists in other genres and other forms. Now, we're going to go ahead and move forward. One of the things that Martini did is he used really bold colors, brighter colors in his artwork. So here is a painting of Christ carrying the cross. And he painted this panel for the Cardinal Orsini, a cardinal of the Catholic Church, and this was done in France. It was part of a small travel altarpiece. So sometimes cardinals for preachers would travel from city to city, and they would take these small paintings with them and show them as images, okay? Just like if a teacher uses a PowerPoint to show images, they would actually carry these paintings with them to help teach some of the lessons they were teaching. So basically, this was part of a quadriptych, which means 4 panels, a 4-panel piece. So these present an angel, the Madonna, and as you see here, the crucifixion and the descent from the cross, now held in the Royal Museum of Fine Arts in Antwerp. All the panels present the same figures in the same dress, in the same strong colors, the same golden background. The Orsini family coat of arms is featured on the back of the panel in the Louvre. The Louvre is a famous art museum in France. The other wings of the portable retable are shared among museums in Berlin and Antwerp. Again, sometimes these panels get split up and end up in different museums. So here we see the scene where Christ is led by soldiers out of the city of Jerusalem to be crucified on Mount Calvary. And Christ is surrounded by a large crowd accompanying him toward the hill. Soldiers with their rhythmically alternating spears. You can see the spears over here on the right. And Jews are to the left. The Virgin Mary is depicted as well. Right here you can see her in the blue, violently pushed aside by a soldier and held by St. John, who is near her. Mary Magdalene is also in the image. She raises her arms toward heaven in a pained gesture, very upset about, Christ is about to be crucified on this cross. So here's your first image in your study guide. So pull your study guides out. Here's your first image. Again, the artist is Simone Martini. And the culture is, it's actually late Gothic, but you can put early Renaissance. You can put late Gothic or early Renaissance. And this is called the Annunciation. So the title of the painting is the Annunciation. It was created in 1333, and it's part of the Saint Ansansis altarpiece. It is temper paint on wood, and you can see the beautiful framing. These are called Gothic arches. The arches with a point at the top, that's a Gothic arch. So the Annunciation scene, if you're not familiar with that terminology, that's when the Archangel Gabriel comes to Mary and he lets her know that she has been impregnated with the Christ child, and she is going to bear the Son of God. It's obviously a powerful time. Ladies, if you decide to have children, when you first become pregnant, it will be a memory that will be etched into your mind for eternity. You will never forget the moment when you first learn that you're pregnant, okay? It's huge. Now, here we have Gabriel, and it looks like he's just landed. You can see the cloth on his backside. It's fluttering down. Let me make this a little bit larger. There's actually a stream of words. It's a salutation from the angel to Mary, letting her know she's pregnant with the Christ child. It's written in text. So here's Mary. She's kind of pushed back to one side. She's in shock. She's holding a book open to a particular page with one finger. You can see the marble flooring that's underneath their feet. It's obviously painted to look like marble, and again, we see the gold leaf, the Gothic arches. So this is a beautiful piece. It's one of my favorite pieces to look at, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. So there are panels with round portraits above head of different figures who are important to the church for various reasons. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and look at another one of this artist's images. Martini created the Maesta, which you see now. This particular image was painted a few years after Duccio had painted his Maesta. So Simone painted this Maesta for the Palazzo Pubblica in Siena as the idea of good and just government. This is the oldest painting that can be safely attributed to Martini. The end wall of the Sala del Mappamondo is entirely covered with this particular fresco. So surrounded by the frame, decorated with 20 medallions depicting the blessing of Christ, the prophets and the evangelists, and with smaller shields containing the coat of arms of Siena. The fresco shows a host of angels, saints and apostles, and the Madonna. There she is, the Mother Mary with the Christ child on her lap. So the whole scene is set up in a deep blue background and is covered by an imposing canopy of red silk. So it looks like they're underneath a tent. And here you see a couple of figures bringing in offerings to the Mother Mary. There are many other figures. The illusion of space is created with the overlapping of the figures. There's John the Baptist. Now, linear perspective has not been invented yet, so they didn't know how to use linear perspective in their artwork yet. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at an artist called Simabu. And Simabu was the first popular artist from the city of Florence. So he had a formative influence on Giotto, again, the artist that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Simabu may have been Giotto's teacher. He was an older rival of Giotto and basically was inspired by the same impulse towards naturalism as Giovanni Pisano, who was a Gothic sculptor that was not related to the first Pisano artist that we looked at. Now, in an almost ruined fresco of the Crucifixion in San Fresco in Assisi, his style was like Giovanni's, highly dramatic, where his figures actually showed emotion. He created an altarpiece in Florence that is a final summing up of centuries of Byzantine art before it goes under transformation into the early Renaissance style. So here's an image. This is a fresco that was found at the lower basilica of San Fresco in Assisi, and I've been in this basilica. I've been in this church. Basilica is another word for church in Assisi in Italy, and it is beautiful to look at. There are many frescoes in this basilica painted by other artists such as Giotto and Lorenzetti, and Giotto's work is mesmerizing. The frescoes tell the stories of Christ. So here we see the Madonna with the Christ child, angels on each side, and this is St. Francis of Assisi. We're going to learn a lot more about St. Francis, and we're going to talk about him more in depth coming up.